Hello, dear student. Welcome to our first class of environment. Today, we are going to see all the important topics of environment for your UPSC and other state PCS examination. So, first topic today we are going to discuss is about Bharat forecast system. This is basically a weather forecasting system that help to increase the resolution so that we can predict the climatic condition or weather condition in a very small area. So, Ministry of Art Science unveiled the forecasting Bharat forecasting system. So from here, you can understand all the weather forecasting related early warning. They are fall under the Ministry of Earth Science, and one of the world first indigenously developed high resolution weather forecasting system. One of the world first. That means this is not the first time. There are already exist this kind of system, but our resolution is very high. It is 6 kilometer, but at the world level there is a low resolution. So what about the Bharat forecasting system? So it is developed by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune. So this is very important. So we have to remember IITM, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune, an autonomous institution of Ministry of Earth Science. So this is an autonomous institution under the Ministry of Earth Science. So what role this Bharat forecast system is going to have? It enhance the every village of it enhance the India's weather predictions resolution from 12 kilometer to 6 kilometer. So now earlier we can predict what going to happen at minimum level of 12 kilometer. Now we can predict what is going to happen within the 6 kilometer. So that means we can accurately predict how much rainfall is going to be happen within 6 kilometer radius now. That means we can provide pinpoint accuracy of weather informations to our farmer, to our village area. So enabling every village in India to access more precise location specific forecast na. So data resources. So it integrate a real-time input from 40 Doppler weather radar. So improving the accuracy of localized forecast and newcast. Well, just imagine we are using 40 Doppler weather radar. So next question that comes to your mind, what is Doppler weather radar? ये सबको आता है. तो आई थिंक आपको देखे होंगे जब ट्रेन आप यहाँ खड़े हैं, लेट्स से आप यहाँ खड़े हैं, तो यहाँ से एक ट्रेन आ रहा है. जैसे ट्रेन हॉर्न मार के आता हो आपके पास आती है, तो पहले उसका क्या होती है, आवाज बढ़ती है देन घट जाती है ना. व्हाई दिस इज हैपनिंग? Because while train moving, so it radiate a frequency or send a frequency while pump sounding is horn. So because of that, as it is moved, so the frequency changes now by, and that frequency we can observe through our ear. So that is the reason the voices keep on changing, the tone, or you can say loudness of that voice is keep on changing. This is happen because of change in the frequency. So it use Doppler effect, so change in frequency of wave emitted by source moving a relative to the observer to gather velocity data from particle being measured. So you can see here, this is a Doppler weather radar. It is sending a signals to cloud or rainfall. So as the cloud rainfall moves inside, so it strike, then it is echo back and the radar receive the signal. And according to this movement, whether cloud, according to the how cloud is moving, how it is rotating, so it gather all this information. Once you are aware about the internal dynamics of the cloud, we can successfully predict what amount of rainfall it is going to have, what kind of speed it is going to have. So that is what helpful for better weather forecasting. So you need to remember that Doppler weather radar are basically used for improving the weather forecasting, making our weather forecasting more accuracy. And India is nowadays adopting a lot of Doppler weather radar. Even Odisha government is also employing Doppler weather radar. So what is the significance of Bharat forecasting system? So improve the accuracy and speed na. So it will give 64 better accuracy, high risk zone, and producing forecast within 4 to 6 hours. Just imagine in the Himalayan region, so there might be some flash flood, and we are not able to provide the early warning. By this improving the weather forecasting, so we can give early warning even within 4 to 6 hours. So that means we can predict the you can say flash floods, extreme weather events like heavy rainfall and cyclone. So we can save a lot of people. So earlier model, so they took at least 12 to 14 hours to give the early warning. So next is India emerged as a global leader, positioning India ahead of the USA, UK, and European Union by achieving 6 kilometer resolution compared to 9 to 14 kilometer in the global model. So that means we are moving ahead of the USA, UK, and European Union to provide 6 kilometer resolution model, but they are currently having 9 to 14 kilometers. Just imagine we are how much we are ahead, despite low cost. We are a small economy, we don't spend money on the R&D, but still it is because of our frugal innovation, it is our innovation, we are ahead of the USA, UK, and European Union. And it is going to support for disaster management agriculture, because the moment that cyclone or something rainfall is happened, so we can evacuate our people, and it will also helpful to provide accurate information. Okay, today there is going to be rainfall, so our farmer will be better prepared now. Let's say there is a rainfall in 2 days, so we can cut our crop, so standing crop will be less damaged now. So in that way it is helpful. So next is economic benefit: reduce climate related loss in sector like agriculture, infrastructure, and water management. For example, dam. So if it is better predicted that this much rainfall is going to be happen, then we can open the gate. If we know that there is no rainfall, we can close the gate so that we can manage our dam. And if we are managing dam, that means we are managing the water properly, na? So to collect all this Doppler weather radar, we are using high performance computer. So what is the name? ARCA. So it is using IIT Pune. And Anurika use National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, Delhi. So two supercomputer we are using. The supercomputer name is also called as high performance computer. So ARCA and Anurika. So regional forecast, so improve the forecasting of the tropical disturbances, including monsoon, cyclones, and extreme rainfall events. So we can predict with highly accuracy these events. Okay. So dear students, so you can see this is very important Bharat forecasting system. It is helpful to provide better prediction of our weather information, so that we can take timely decision. चलिए dear student, next we are going to see about e-mobility. E means electric vehicle mobility. So recently Niti Aayog published a report, released a report unlocking $2 billion opportunity. So by this transitioning from fossil fuel towards electric vehicles, so there is a potential to boost our economy by $200 billion. So electric vehicle in India with fast electric mobility index. So it is also launched India's electric mobility index. This can be a very good question. Na? Recently, India's electric mobility index is launched by which organization? Okay, so it is Niti Aayog. So about IEMI, so Niti Aayog along with World Resource Institute of India to benchmark state e-mobility progress, to see how much progress are making different state on e-mobility. So they use 16 metrics under transport, electrification, charging, infrastructure, EV, research and development. So they use 16 matrix to categorize. Okay. So next you can see about they categorize the state into achievers, 100% front runner, then performer and aspirant. So Delhi already topped and Maharashtra followed by Maharashtra. So next big question comes to your mind, then what is electric vehicle? Electric vehicle generally use a battery. That battery power a motor, and motor rotate, so that entire vehicle will be rotate, or it is moving. So here there is no conversion of the burning of petrol, then heat, and then energy. So because of that there is high energy efficiency. So it can be electric vehicle, it can be hybrid vehicle. Here it use battery, as well as the fuel also, like petrol, diesel also. Then fuel cell vehicle, it use the hydrogen as a fuel. So plug-in hybrid EV. So current status in India, currently we are around 20 lakh sale happen EV in 2024, and 7.6% EV penetration in 2025. So out of total vehicle, 7.6 or 7.5 of total vehicle are electric vehicle. So the next question, why government is promoting, why we are pushing so hard about the electric vehicle as compared to the IC engine? So because the emission is zero now. If you are, let's say, if you are using solar energy to charge your EV, so in this case the net carbon dioxide emission equals to zero na. But currently we are using coal power to charge our electric vehicle. So because of that there will be emission, but emission will be reduced by 3x time na. Then energy efficiency. So in electric engine, simply battery power the rotate the motor, and motor rotate. But in case of IC engine, so petrol will be born. There will be lot of heat loss. So because of that, the IC engine or petrol engine efficiency is only 20%. So here the efficiency is 60%. So that means more efficient, so less emission of the carbon also. So next is reduce oil import. So if you will see, 85% of our oil we are import from different countries, and particularly Gulf region, which is very volatile nature because of conflict. So any disruption will impact our economy. If we are shifting towards EV, so we'll not have dependence on them now. So we can save lot of money on import bill. We can save lot of import bill also. So 2030 target can be saved 1.1 lakh crore annually. So next is user convenience. So it is also giving lot of convenience. No need to go to the petrol station. You can charge at your home. एंड बैटरी स्वैपिंग इज जस्ट लाइक दी सिलेंडर. आई थिंक आपको पता होगा, जब आपका एचपी सिलेंडर या फिर कोई सिलेंडर खत्म हो जाता है, आप क्या करते हो, दे देते हो और दूसरी ले लेते हो. सेम थिंग वी कैन ऑल्सो डू इन बैटरी ऑल्सो, लाइक दी बैटरी स्टेशन, यू कैन जस्ट गिव योर बैटरी एंड टेक वन न्यू बैटरी. Okay. So next is noise reduction. Is yes, in electric vehicle there is no noise or very less noise. So next is about lower running and maintenance cost. Okay. So what are the challenges that we are facing in EV? So first one is about the financing, high capital cost and high EMI burden, because battery is high cost. So this is the reason the EV vehicle are very high cost also. So vehicle centric, heavy and costly battery, low resale value. So charging infrastructure, now charging infrastructure is not available everywhere. So in case of your battery, your car is having low battery, so you cannot charge. You have to face a lot of problem. So land issue, lack of collaboration, and no integrated app. So we don't have, even if there are there are people interested in establishing charging station, but there is no land proper, there is complex regulation also, and no integrated app. There is no app that can show at which location there is a charging station, so we can use that innovation also na. So next one is about the awareness. So people are also lacking the awareness about whether they should go for IC engine or petrol diesel engine, or they should go for the EV. So next is data and regulation. So inaccurate EV data, no battery ID, so inverted GST. So all these things are acting as a hamper for shifting towards electric vehicles. So government to incentivize to improve that, government is also taken a lot of steps. So first one is about the PME drive scheme, support e-vehicle charging infrastructure. So this can be a very good question. So PME drive, what are the objective of PME drive? So basically aims to support electric vehicle and support the charging infrastructure, promote the charging infrastructure. Then India need to be a leader in manufacturing of EV. So for that, EV manufacturing scheme to attract the global manufacturer to come here, establish factory here, manufacture car or bus or even the two-wheeler, then export or you can sell in the domestic market also. Then PM e-bus seva, so 38,000 e-bus with payment security. So this is what provided by central government, 38,000 bus with payment security that they will pay in case state government fails to pay. So we have already launched production link incentive scheme. So if a definite target is achieved, then government will reduce the taxes. So auto component, and we are also planning to have 50 gigawatts of battery production capacity. So that is what encouraging the manufacturer to establish plant and produce more and more. So next is GST on EV. So GST reduced from 12 to 5%, so that final cost of our vehicle will be less. So next scheme that is launched is evolution program. So basically aims to promote the startups by the Department of Science and Technology, so that if there is a more startups, they'll bring a lot of innovation, so this innovation transform into new product. So yes, so way forward, what we can do, zero emission vehicle we can launch, higher taxes we can have on the EV, then 100% EV adoption in 5 city. So this program we can have, and we can also explore low cost finance. So for example, if I want to purchase a bike, a car, so there is two options. So if I'm going for petrol and diesel engine, so let's say loan amount is 20%, let's say my interest rate, but in case of AV, loan amount interest is 5%, so I'll go for AV. So next is charging. So we need to establish proper charging infrastructure, charging corridor, we need to simplify the regulatory norms, and for example, all the socket holder of the charging plug should be same now, otherwise if you are having your car, you cannot charge in the charging station, so we need that regulation. The next is cost. So we can promote the battery leasing policy. What is battery leasing? Just like the whenever your जैसे होती है ना, जब आपका गैस खत्म हो जाता है, आप क्या करते हो, गैस दे देते हो, दूसरी ले लेते हो। सोचो यार, हर बार अगर आपको ऐसे करना पड़ता, आपका सिलेंडर में ही आपको भरना होता है, तो कितना प्रॉब्लम होता है ना। सेम थिंग वी कैन implement in the battery swap policy also. So we need to create national level awareness policy. We can have unified national EV application, so that people will understand the best benefit of the electric vehicle. So even in the global level, so different country already implemented best practices, so we can learn from there and implement in India also na. For example, China, 100 cities and 1000 vehicle program, so that we can learn what are the positive negative, and then we can implement India also. Singapore, EV electric charging private limited for charging station, so there we can study how they are promoting charging stations. Same thing we can replicate in India also. So charge map app for real time charging station data, so that can be also implemented. For example, if I'm driving AV, I should know at what distance the charging station is there, so that I can take the decision. For example, if my charging so that it is going 10 kilometers, so I can charge before that na. So next in EV, so in UK, so Faraday battery challenges for commercialization. So these best practices we can implement in our India as well. Hope, dear student, you are able to understand. So let's see the next topic. So it is ethanol blending. So recently India achieved the target of 20% ethanol blending in the petrol. So this is supposed to be achieved in 2025. We have achieved before that. So it increased from 1.5% of ethanol blending in 2014 to 20% in 2025. So this is a landmark achievement. So about ethanol, so what is ethanol? Ethanol is a renewable fuel. Why it is called renewable fuel? Because ethanol is produced currently from the sugarcane. So sugarcane can be cultivated n number of times, so we can produce n number of times this fuel. So it is produced from the crop via fermentation or petrochemical process. So it can be produced either fermentation or petrochemical process. So if you see types of biofuel, so you see first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. In first generation biofuel, we are using corn, sugar beet, wheat, and rice bran for production of biofuel. Here it is food crop we are using. So if you are using food crop for the biofuel, so there might be shortage of food in the market. So that is what led to the inflation, food hungry. So this is the reason it is very concerned. So we are shifting from first generation to second generation. In second generation, we are using waste product, straw, rice straw, then grasses, wood chips for production of the biofuel. So from second generation, we are moving to the third generation. We can utilize the vast ocean and water body on the surface. There are a lot of microorganisms like algae, microalgae, macroalgae. So that can be used to produce the biofuel. And to make this sustainable or carbon neutral, we can shift that to the fourth generation. In fourth generation, we can use pyrolysis, solar fuel, okay, or genetic algae, and okay, so for production of the biofuel, so that we can produce sufficient amount of biofuel and that is environmentally sustainable. So next is about the ethanol blending program that we have run. So let's see detail about it. So it was launched in 2003. So ethanol blending mix. So in ethanol blending, we are generally mixing the ethanol with the petrol. It is not diesel. Remember that. If I am saying E10, so that means 10% I am using ethanol na, plus 90% I am using petrol. So if it is E20, so that means I'm using 20% as ethanol plus 80% as petrol. Na? So you have to remember. And E85 means 85% I'm using ethanol and 15% I'm using petrol. So E20, if you are using 20% ethanol, so it will improve the riding quality because ethanol will reduce the jerk, make your ride very smooth and lower the carbon emission by 30% as compared to E10. So that is the reason government want to promote it. So I think if you know, so government also launched a national policy on biofuel in 2018 and we have amended in 2022, so to advance that target of 20% blending of ethanol in the petrol. So whatever petrol we are selling, at least 20% of that should be ethanol added. And how currently we are making ethanol? So ethanol are making from the sugar juice, sugar beet, cassava, damaged or rotten grain, and surplus food grain. So that can be used to produce the ethanol. So what kind of achievement we are currently having? So we were produced around 38 liters in 2014, but now we are able to produce 660 liters. So next is significance of ethanol blending. So why we need to promote? So first one is about the energy security, secure energy and growth. Na? So next is about the environmental sustainability. So 698 lakhs tons of carbon dioxide reduced. So if we are using ethanol, so the during the growth of sugarcane or any plant, so they'll consume lot of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to manufacture the the glucose, and when they will burn, release the same amount of carbon dioxide. So that means they follow a cyclical process, so they will not add much carbon dioxide. So it will boost our economic growth because it will also empower our farmer, because sugarcane we are using, then we are using the corn, so they are basically grow by the farmer, so farmer will benefit. It also led to the diversification of our crop. Na? Currently our farmer follow two crops, rice and wheat. So if they get good incentive, good money, so they can shift towards other crop, like you can say about maize. Okay. Next is import saving. So we are importing about 85% of our petrol. So if we are adding, so that will save our import bill and a lot of money. Na? So rural development, yes, if farmers are developed, so our rural area will also develop. What are the challenges? So there might be possibility of food, food security and inflation. If too much of we are divert the food crop for biofuel, so there might be shortage of the food for the people, so and inflation, and already we know that there are a lot of people are below poverty line, so they don't have access to the food also. So and then environmental heavy reliance on the water intensive sugar can stress the aquifer. So they might also lead to the stress of aquifer and decrease in the water level of our aquifer. So next is technological cost. Transitioning to the E2 need costly engine. So currently all our जितने सारे हमारा गाड़ी है सब डिजाइन हुआ है 100% पेट्रोल के लिए. अगर आप इथेनॉल ऐड करोगे then you have to modify the engine, you have to change the all the you can say rubber that we are using with glass so that they'll not damage. So we need retrofitting, and old engine might not be compatible, they might damage, so we have to factor that as well. So next is fuel efficiency. So if you are using ethanol, so it will give less mileage because ethanol energy density is low as compared to petrol. So people will feel that. So for example, if we are giving 100 rupees for both petrol and ethanol blend or petrol, but in case of only petrol it is, let's say it is giving 50 kilometer, but it will give here only 40 kilometers, so people will be hesitate to transit na. Next is supply. So we need to ensure that ethanol is available to the nook and corner of India's like northeast rural area. Then only people will adopt it. So the next question, next important question, if that is the case, then what are the steps taken by the government? Government have taken a lot of steps to promote the ethanol. So one of them is PM Jiban. So PM Jiban basically aims to promote second generation ethanol project. For example, ethanol we are producing from waste product, from grasses, from wood chips. So next is EISS. So ethanol incentive interest subvention scheme. So here, let's say bank loan is 10% for, providing for industry for, but government will provide this 8% of the interest, and only 2% of interest can be provided by the industry who want to establish ethanol plant. So here it will encourage the people to establish the ethanol plant and produce the ethanol. So we have also cut the GST on ethanol blended petrol to 5% from 18%, so that ethanol blending petrol will be less costly in the market. Also, government amended the Industry Development and Regulation Act for smooth ethanol movement. So we have also amended Industry Development and Regulation Act so that ethanol movement became very easy and smooth. Chaliye dear student, hope you are able to understand this topic. So it is very important for your examination. So they can ask about the for example, they can ask about we have achieved or not achieved first generation, second generation, the biofuel. So they can ask about all these things, so please go through it. So next important topic that today we are going to discuss is about agroforestry. So first question is why it is in news? Because government has issued model rule 2025 for falling of the tree on agricultural land in a bid to promote agroforestry. देखो, there are policy on agroforestry in 2014, but it is not yet promoted because if you are growing agroforestry, there are a lot of restriction. You cannot cut it, you cannot transport it. For transportation, you need permit, and because of to get permit, there are a lot of bureaucratic delay. So that is not encouraging people to follow the agroforestry. And to simplify that, government bring this rules. So the procedure for registration of the land for agroforestry, so to provide the procedure, what are the procedure to register the agroforestry. Then it is talking about falling of the tree under agroforestry. So how we can cut the agroforestry tree. Then it also provide transit or certificate for transportation of the wood that is produced from the agroforestry, so that it makes simplification from entire growth, how we are going to grow the agroforestry, when you can cut and you can transport it, you can sell it, so that people will feel that if they grow the agroforestry, it is going to benefit them, give a lot of revenue. Okay. So about agroforestry, so we have already launched national agroforestry policy in 2014. Remember that, this is very important. So even if they don't ask in the prelims, you can write same thing in mains. So it integrate the tree with shrub on the farmland and rural landscape to enhance productivity, profitability, diversity, and ecosystem sustainability. So if you are using crop along with other, let's say some big tree or some tree on the you can say ridge of your, जैसे मान लो एक फॉरेस्ट, ये आपका एग्रीकल्चर लैंड है, यहाँ आप एग्रीकल्चर कर रहे हो, यहाँ पर अगर आप ट्री प्लांट करते हो, सो इसमें क्या होगा, डाइवर्सिटी को बढ़ाएगा, बहुत सारे प्लांट यहाँ हो पाएगा. देन इन केस क्रॉप फेल्यूर, सो इट इज एक्टिंग एज ए इंश्योरेंस ना. So that is the reason we can say it enhance the productivity, profitability, diversity, and ecosystem sustainability. It aim to encourage tree planting on the farmland in a way that complement crops and livestock. ठीक है. So India's agroforestry plantation occupy 8% of India's geographical land area. So as of now, so this can be a very good question. They can ask about, they can say about, agroforestry contribute around 20% of the land area. It is not correct. It is around 8%. So remember the fact, nowadays UPSC is asking a lot of facts. So agroforestry can, agroforestry system can consisting of multiple things like agriculture, agri-silviculture, combine crop with tree crops. Agri horticulture, here it is combined fruit tree with the crops. Agri sylvi horticulture, so combine tree, fruits and crops. So it can be agri sylvi pasture, tree, cattle on the lands. Okay, so it can be horti and olericulture, so it is fruits and vegetables. So sylvi pasture, so livestock, forage and tree. So live fencing, that means if you are this is your field, so you can use the border by some plant to fence it na. Next is sylvi or horti sericulture. Here we are using fruit trees with sericulture. So sylvi and olericulture combine tree with vegetables. So horti pasture combined tree fruit tree with pasture for or animals. Okay, so just remember, so this can be a good combination of question they can ask about, what is silviculture, what is olericulture, what is yes, I think this kind of horticulture, so they can ask about it, so we should prepare for that. So next important question, what is the significance of agroforestry? Why we should grow agroforestry? If there is significance, then only we can grow na. So first one is about the agricultural growth. It can help to achieve 4% sustained growth in agriculture na. So our target is to achieve 4% sustained growth in agriculture. Yes, this is going to be helpful to achieve that na. So diverse impact, so meet 50%, it will meet our 50% of the fuel wood, 50-60% of the pulp, and 9 to 10% of the fodder need. So it increase agricultural yield by average 51% and check the crop failure. How it is going to happen? Let's say we are planting big tree here, so the tree will provide shade here na. So because of their shade, so in case of extreme weather events, there is no damage na. Even the trees store a lot of water in their trunk. So when there is a drought, so they might release, they might give some evaporation, transpiration, evapotranspiration. So because of that, they might cool down the environment so that crop will not fail na? So next is about sustainable development. Yes, they will store a lot of carbon, they'll improve the soil health because they shed their leaves, and these leaves, when they decompose, they add some organic material to the soil, so they'll improve the soil health. So they act like smart, smart climate smart agriculture. It can withstand extreme weather events, so it will also protect the environment, reduce the pressure on natural forest, and provide better protections to the ecological system. If farmer planting agroforestry in their agriculture, so they will not go to the jungle for the wood, so their wood need can be met from their own farmland, so our forest will be protected. So tree outside forest area will also increase. So already we are having 21% of our total land is having forest area. So beyond that, tree that is outside our forest area can also increase by promoting the agroforestry. But there are a lot of challenges. So what are the challenges? So first challenge is about the policy gap. So there are a lot of gaps in our policy is not clearly stated, so there are a lot of confusion. So lack of information on selected tree due to absence of agroforestry tree manuals for the farmers. So restrictive regulation, so regulation should be good, but it should not be too much of regulation. It's very difficult to obtain the permissions to cut your if I'm growing a tree in my land, so it is very difficult to cut it and then sell it. Difficult to transfer, transit from, or you can say transport from one locations to another location. So this kind of regulation need to be improved. So next is underutilization of national transit pass system. 82% application receive only from 3 states. So majority of application are received by the few states, so all the other states, they are not getting that approval. So availability of high variety seeds. So if farmer are planting trees, they should be given good quality of seeds, planting material, so that they can plant na. So bottleneck in previous policy, so overemphasize on few species like poplar and eucalyptus, which are not suitable to the Indian climates. In previous policy, we have emphasized too much on planting few trees like poplar and eucalyptus, and we know that these trees are very bad for the environment. They create a lot of negative harm, they withdraw a lot of water. If they fall their leaves, when eucalyptus leaves fall on the ground, so they'll secrete chemicals, and because of that chemicals, no other tree can grow in this region. So this is called allelopathic effect. Okay, so that kind of problem, we have to ensure that whenever we are planting any tree on our agricultural land, so it should be local native tree. That means any plant that is grow in this region, we should plant that, not outside plant. Okay, hope dear student you are able to understand this. So let's see next topic, convention on international trade in endangered species or cites. This is very important because it is celebrating 50th anniversary, and anything 50th, 75th, 100th anniversary is very important for UPSC. Even UPSC itself is celebrating hundreds of years, 100 years, so it is also important for your examinations. So about the cites, So when it is established in 1963 at IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, in force 1975. So just remember roughly the date. So voluntary pact ensuring trade in wild does not threaten the survival, regulate the trade via licensing. That means in wildlife trade at the international level should not lead to the threat of extinction of that species. So it is secretariat administered by UNFE, United Nations Environmental Program at Geneva. IUCN provide technical support. So secretariat administered by the UNEP, and it is technical support is provided by IUCN. So 185 party and India ratified in 1975. Okay. So we have already implemented the law. For example, I think you already know Wildlife Protection Act 1972 govern the regulation protection of these animals, these species. So APEC, conference of party is the apex body. So each year each country send one representative to participate in the conference of party, and third conference of party held in New Delhi in 1981. So CITES trade database managed by UNEP WCMC for trade monitoring on behalf of the CITES secretary. So this is all about. So please remember, in past multiple questions they have asked from this CITES. So this is a good question. This is a good topic to frame the question. So a few initiative taken by the CITES for conservation of species. So they are like protect 40,000 plus species via appendix. So they have created an appendix where they have protected more than 40,000 species. So next they implemented MIKE, the program for monitoring of animal poaching. So they monitor the poaching of the animal also. So few MIKE site of India is Chirang Refu Elephant Reserve, Dihing Patkai Elephant Reserve. So these are MIKE sites that is being monitored or controlled by the CITES. So CITES also establish a vision 2021 to 30. So they are aligned with the biodiversity and sustainable goal targets. So to achieve the sustainable goal target and biodiversity target, so they have their vision document. So what they are going to achieve. So CITES tree species program promotes sustainable tree trade. So international consortium on combating wildlife crime. So combat wildlife crime globally. So international consortium on combating wildlife crime also help in combating the wildlife crime. So please read all these things. So it is very important for your examination because it is celebrating 50th year of its establishment. Okay. चलिए. So next topic that today we are going to discuss. So India's resource on wise use of wetland. So India is promoting sustainable lifestyle for wetland resolution adopted at Ramsar Conference of Party 15, Zimbabwe. So here one two thing is very important. So what India is doing, India is promoting sustainable lifestyle for wetland. So how sustainably we can manage our wetland. And second one is COP 15 is happened. What location it is? Zimbabwe. So COP 15 in Zimbabwe, and what India is doing promoting sustainable lifestyle for wetland. So more about the news. So it support the mission life. So that means lifestyle for environment launch and COP26. So the life mission, it is launched by our prime minister. The full form of life is lifestyle for environment. So promoting nature friendly lifestyle. So we should live in a way that is in sync with nature. It should not be destroy the nature. For example, I think in our in our home, whenever our shirt damaged, so we use that as a bag. Na? We used to cover or make some you can say bed sheet, something like kambal like that, to that is what's recycling. But when western country, they simply waste throw away this product. So that is what led to the more damaging to the environment. The next question that comes to your mind, what is Ramsar Convention? Yes, so we are going to discuss. So it is adopted in 1971 in the Iran city, but it came into force in 1975. So it is an intergovernmental treaty for conservation and wise use of wetland. So it is not only the conservation but also how wisely we can use the wetland. So Ramsar site, so globally around 2500 Ramsar site that is being designated. So to a site to be designated as Ramsar site, it should be meet at least one of the nine criteria. There are nine criteria. If any one criteria is meeting, then we can declare that site as a Ramsar site. So India is having currently 91 Ramsar site, which is highest in the Asia. So India is having highest Ramsar site in the Asia, not in global level. So this can be a good question. Na? India is having largest Ramsar site in India. India is having largest Ramsar site in Asia. So this can be a point of a question also. ठीक है, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. So about the wise use of wetland. So that means what is the wise use? So while we are using the wetland, it can be fish, it can be water. We should ensure that we should not damage to the wetland. Na? So core Ramsar Convention maintain ecological character via ecosystem-based sustainable development. So mandate country must promote wise use through plans laws, actions, and educations. So India's approach is National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystem. So what are the plan we have implemented? National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystem. So next one is integrated management plans. So we have already having integrated management plan. So next is wetland wise use framework, mission, Saubhagida, and Save Wetland campaign. So these are the program we are currently implementing to ensure the wetland should be used in a way sustainable manner. ठीक है. So other key outcome of COP15. So this can be a very good question. So they can ask what are the outcome achieved in the COP15 of Ramsar Convention. So there might be option 3 4 options. So if you know it, then you can answer it. Otherwise, you'll have to skip it. So please read. In examination, you can easily find it. So first outcome is Victoria Fall Declaration. So they recognize wetland ecological, social, economic role linked to the biodiversity, climate, and sustainable growth. So the wetland help in protecting ecology, society, because it provide drinking water, employment, and and economy. Yes, economy is driven by it. Okay. So next is Indo Burma Ramsar Reduction Initiative, Indo Burma Ramsar Reduction Initiative Strategy Plan 2025-2030. So it halt wetland loss in Indo Burma region. So basically, which region is called Indo Burma region? So it is Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. So in this region, will reduce the loss of Ramsar sites. So next one is about the bridge program. So grant on gender mainstreaming and women leadership. So bridge program basically aims to promote women empowerment. Na? So freshwater challenges boost convention on implementation. So next is global water watch, enhance global water watch estimate program. So enhance the waterbird monitoring and wetland conservation. So these are the four outcome of COP, five outcomes of COP15 happened in the Zimbabwe, so they can be asked how many above are outcomes. So you need to remember it. Okay. चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. Next important topics that today we are going to discuss is about International Conference on Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. So what do you mean by disaster resilience? Let's say we have built a bridge. So if during disaster the bridge is survive, so in that case the disaster will be not that severe. So we have to design our infrastructure, be that home, anything that we are building, it should be overcome or sustain during the disaster. Then only we can say disaster resilience infrastructure. So here few factor very important. Africa Union joined India's coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure. So African Union joined the coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure in seventh international conference of disaster resilient infrastructure happened in the France. So it can be a good question. The seventh international conference on disaster resilience infrastructure happened in which location? It is in France. So, you can say International Conference on Disaster Resilience launch call to action for coastal resilience in small island development states. So, small island development states, so they are lying very, little bit off in the, their height from the sea level is very close. For example, Maldives. So, and if sea level is rise, so they will submerge. Na? So, here they have launched action. What kind of coastal resilience they can build so that, they will fight against the rising seawater. Na? So the conference is first to be held in Europe and to be co-hosted by Coalition for Disaster Resilience and Government of the French. So this can be a very good question. This is first time held in Europe. And the what is the theme of this coalition for disaster resilience? So sorry, the international conference on disaster resilience infrastructure, resilient future for coastal region. How we can make our coastal region more resilient for future vulnerability. Okay. So next question, why we need to concern about coastal region? Because coastal region are most vulnerable because of rising climate change, sea level. So we are going to see. So risk to human life and property. 60% of the global population and major cities lies in the coastal area. 60% of the global population. And in India, 250 million people live within 50 kilometers from the coast. So that means any damage, any problem in the coastal area is going to impact people very hard. Na? So next is climate change. So projected to increase the intensity and frequency of hazard like sea level rise, flood, and storm. So with climate change, so these hazard, this disaster is going to increase, so we need to prepare. So next is economic loss. So already we have seen there are a lot of cyclone happen, cyclone Feni. So that has caused huge cost to our coastal environment, coastal infrastructure. So we need to design our infrastructure in a such a way that during disaster they will not damage. Na? So next is social vulnerability. So there are so many people who are staying in the coastal area, but they are poor without having proper home. So they are, in case of disaster, they will suffer a lot. Death and loss of their life is problem. So that is the reason we need to take care of it. Then threat to the ecosystem. So I think in coastal area, mangrove they'll store a lot of carbon dioxide. They act as a breeding ground for the fish. But when disaster happens, so they are severely impacted. Loss, I think you already know, Feni cyclone caused entirely damage to this mangrove. So we need to protect that also. For that reason, we need to ensure coastal resilience. So several coastal hazards that is happening in India. For example, tsunami in 2014 happened. So 2.3 lakh people are died in 14 countries. So cyclone, I think already know. Odisha, eastern coast of India severely affected by this cyclone. So next is storm surge, 2 to 2.5 meter storm surge in Kutch and Morbi district in 2023. Also, our coastal area, 33% of our coastal area is threatened by the coastal erosion. So because of this severity of hazard that our coastal region is facing, we need to take actions to make our coastal region resilient. So about coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure, so it is launched in United Nations Climate Action Summit in 2019 by India. CDRI is launched by India in 2019. So a global partnership for national government, UN agencies, and multilateral development banks and private sector. So it is a you can say partnership among all these things. So objective is to promote a resilience infrastructure system to climate disaster risk. So we need to make our infrastructure in a resilient so that during disaster it will not damage. So currently 56 member and secretariat Delhi. So this is very important, secretariat Delhi. So tell me in the comment box, there is one more organization recently established in France during COP, COP 21 2015. So what is the name of that organization? Okay. So next initiative taken by this coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure. So first is infrastructure for resilient island states. So all these island states, so they need to build their infrastructure in a resilient way to promote a resilient infrastructure in small island development states. So infrastructure resilience accelerator fund. So it established with United Nations Development Program and United Nations disaster reduction, United Nations disaster risk reduction support. So there are few initiatives taken by the Indian government to improve the resilience of our coastal area. So what are that? So coastal regulation zone notification in 2019 aim to conserve the coastal stretch and ensure livelihood or security of the fisher farm community. We know that our coastal area is suffering from a lot of disaster like cyclone, flood, irrigation, erosion, then storm surge. So government has taken, in our coastal area, government identified different region as a different zone and prohibit the developmental activity in this zone so that we can protect the ecological character of this region. Na? So that is what called coastal regulation zone. So aim to conserve the coastal stretches and ensure livelihood security to the fisher community. So next one is about the integrated coastal zone management project implemented in Odisha and West Bengal to protect coastal environment. So this 3 4 point they can ask examination also. They can ask how many above are taken by the government of India to promote the coastal area. Na? The next is coastal vulnerability index. So here they provide a map how this coast is impacted, what are the vulnerability of that coast to different disasters. So on that basis we can understand this region is highly prone to the disaster. This index is developed by INCOIS. What is the full form of INCOIS? Indian National Center for Ocean Information. Indian National Center for Ocean Information to assess the vulnerability of the coastal region. Whenever you know this region is affected by this disaster, so we can take remedial steps. Na? So next one is about the National Action Plan on Climate Change, NAPCC. So include National Water Mission supporting coastal resilience. So I think you already know, and we have implemented National Action Plan on Climate Change that include 8 sub plans. One of that plan is National Water Mission. The National Water Mission also include to build coastal resilience. Na? So in our Prime Minister also given 5 global priority to strengthen the disaster resilience. What is that? So we need to integrate disaster resilience in the education so that student will understand how it is important to build the infrastructure that is disaster resilience. So next is global depository. So we need to maintain proper record and that record can be shared so that anything bad happen in the one region we can understand good practices, bad practices we can understand so that we can prohibit it. Na? So next is innovative financing. So we need to ensure that there should be low cost financing, innovative technology to achieve the disaster resilience. So India recognized small island development states as a large ocean country. India being a large ocean country surrounded by big oceans, so we are ready to help the small island development states to transit towards the resilience infrastructure. So next is strengthening of early warning system. So if early warning system is good, so we can protect a lot of people's life na? So next one is about the disaster risk reduction financing. So to reduce the disaster risk, disaster itself, for example, cyclone. If there is a cyclone is going to come regularly. But if you can reduce vulnerability of the coastal area, reduce the people who can be died because of this cyclone or disaster, then in that case we can say disaster risk reduction. If we can properly construct a dike, so disaster risk will reduce now. For example, in case of chemical factory, if we can properly sealed that chemical area, in that case we have reduced the risk of disaster now. That is what called disaster risk reduction. So recently African Union joined India's coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure. So this can be a very good question. Which organization recently joined to the CDRI? It is African Union. And seventh International Conference of Disaster Resilience Infrastructure held in France. Seventh International Conference of Disaster Resilience Infrastructure held in France. So more about the news. So in that, India showcased world largest disaster risk reduction financing system at the eighth session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. Here, India showcased the largest global platform for financing disaster risk reduction. So global uh, so the GPDRR. So yes, so Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction was established in 2006 to assess the progress on the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. So Sendai framework we have established in 2015. So they provide four principle how we can achieve the disaster risk reduction. We should not only reduce the disaster, we should reduce the disaster risk itself so that people will not die. Na? So what is the disaster risk reduction? So it is referred to the step taken to prevent new or reduce the existing disaster risk, manage the risk retention, thereby strengthening resilience and sustainable development. Okay. So there are different mechanisms to finance the disaster risk reduction. For example, United Nations and multilateral funds, global fund supporting disaster risk reduction. For example, Green Climate Fund. So each country they can contribute. Developed country they contribute fund. That fund is called Green Climate Fund, and that fund can be utilized for reducing the disaster risk. Na? Or making our infrastructure resilient. So next is multilateral development bank. So there are a lot of multilateral development bank like World Bank, IMF. So they can provide funding for the disaster risk reduction. So international financial institution providing disaster risk financing. World Bank disaster risk financing and insurance program. So at the national level, integration of disaster risk reduction into governmental budget and climate financing mechanism. At the national level, we are also funding the disaster risk reduction. For example, disaster risk reduction in national local budget. So climate finance national adoption plan. So lot of planning that is being going on at the India level. For example, during our budget we have also allocated money for disaster risk reduction. Even in our finance commission, every finance commission they suggest money to be given to the disaster risk reductions. Okay, we have already launched climate finance for national adoption plans. For example, already there are a lot of cyclone happen, lot of climate changes happening, so they are going to be disaster. So how we can adopt so that our loss will be reduced. So bilateral aid and partnership. So country to country assistance is provided. For example, India provide assistance to the Maldives, then Nepal, Bhutan. So that kind of assistance we are already providing. One example is US AD support the disaster risk reduction program. So private sector also, for example, private sector they can contribute their corporate social responsibility towards making disaster risk reduction. So why there is need for disaster risk financing? Because limited ad. So the ad they are receiving they are very less. Second one is about the mounting economic burden. So if any disaster happens, so loss is very severe. So if we can prevent, then it is very good. So next is higher vulnerability of the developing country. So this developing country they are not responsible for the global warming, but when there is an impact of global disaster, when a disaster strike, they are mostly impacted because they are most vulnerable. They don't have proper house to stay, medical for taking care of that. So that is the reason we need to have disaster risk reduction. So you can see about. Yes, so India's disaster risk reduction mechanism. So we are already having disaster risk reduction financial mechanism. India follow predetermined ruled based allocation from national to district level under Disaster Management Act. So under Disaster Management Act, we are having a ruled based system where we can follow the fund from the national level to the district level, so that disaster risk reduction can be happen at the ground level. Even our fifth finance commission allocated around $28 billion for disaster risk reduction. So for key priority, we are giving dedicated financial window for preparedness, mitigation, relief and recovery, and prioritization of vulnerable communities. So we are giving priority of the vulnerable community. Accessibility across all government levels, so we are increasing accessibility of all the government, making government accountable, transparency and measurable outcomes. So these are the four key area we are giving priority. Okay, so some way forward, we can overall the regulatory environment, then tracking the finance so that we reduce the corruption, then adoption innovation approach and promoting layer finance so that low cost global disaster risk reduction we can achieve. So dear student, this is all about the first class of our environment. So if you next class we are going to see further. So dear student, if you like this video, please like, subscribe to my channel. Please do share this video with a friend so that large number of students can benefit, and please do share your thought in the comment box so that I can understand what kind of content you want. If anything modification needed, definitely I'll add to that. Chaliye dear student, bye bye, take care, have a good day, bye.